Good evening, and welcome to the meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Councilmember Lester. Present. Councilmember Reinhardt.
Here.
Vice President Fiamura.
Here.
President Finn.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Dan Creighton and Corporation Counsel Dennis Cohen. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Corporation Counsel Dennis Cohen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, everyone. Before we start tonight's meeting, we just want to say a few words about our recently departed friend, Adam Estone. I've known Adam a long time. We were actually off and on neighbors in two different neighborhoods. You'd be hard-pressed to find a nicer young man. He offered kind words and a smile to everyone he met. He truly became part of the fabric of this city over the years. All the kids and the parents at his crossing post knew him, and he was a friendly face, greeting employees and visited City Hall. And the vigil that we attended earlier tonight over on Riverside Boulevard is attested to that. So many people were there, and so many people were in tears, and it was a prayerful vigil. It was very nice. The Long Beach family is hurting right now. He was a good one. He was a good man, and he's much missed. I ask you all now to join in a moment of silence for him, to remember him, pray for his family and friends that he has found eternal peace. Thank you. I'd also be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank the first responders who tended to Adam with the care and compassion he deserved. As a former cop, I know how hard these situations can be. We're used to doing our job, but we're not used to doing it when we're dealing with a friend or a family member. This is an impossibly hard situation that these folks, they handled it beautifully. It's a really rough situation for many. Please be there for each other, check in on each other, hold each other close, and always keep in mind there's someone to talk to if you need to talk. It's kind of hard to start a meeting like that, but that's the way it has to be. Thank you. Dan Creighton will give us our city manager report.
Thank you, Brendan. Let me start. I'd like to echo Brendan's remarks about our first responders and about Adam in particular. He was a kind young man that, greeted everybody in City Hall on a daily basis, and he'll be missed by everybody here at City Hall. I'm proud of our employees, how our employees came together during this difficult time. Adam was truly a brother among us here at City Hall, and he'll be missed. There's not much more that can be said, really. I mean, honestly, he was a great guy, always with a smile on his face. So tonight's meeting is going to start off with a budget presentation and a budget hearing. Another hearing will take place at the next meeting on the 21st, and the final vote on the budget will either take place at that meeting or at a special meeting on the 28th. As for Public Works, our biannual hydrant flushing is in the home stretch. They'll be starting on New York Avenue tonight and in the President Streets and Canal soon. This work is done to remove sediment from water lines and ensure adequate hydrant pressures. The spring flushing will be wrapping up, we believe, this week. Thank you to everybody in CSEA making that happen, ahead of schedule, by the way. As mentioned at our last meeting, the Department of Public Works and Public Relations were working on a project to keep residents updated on the various infrastructure projects taking place in the city. That project is an interactive map that provides descriptions of and updates on all of the work that has either recently been completed, is currently taking place, or is planned in the near future. It can be found on our website at www.longbeachny.gov/publicworks. I think our residents will find this to be a useful tool, and will continue to improve it over time. Thank you to all who were involved in making this happen. The state has announced that starting last night, the Loop Parkway will be closed from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. for approximately 2 weeks. These closures are required for the contractor to establish a new traffic pattern. Other items of note: beach passes will go on sale at 9 a.m. this Saturday, May 11th, at the gazebo by the rec center, and digital passes can be bought online. We're less than 3 weeks away from beach opening. Our crews are hard at work, and we're excited for a great season. Next weekend, the city is partnering up with the Arts Council on the second annual Porch Fest. More than 20 bands will be playing at 7 different houses on Saturday, the 18th, between 2 and 6 p.m. Last year's inaugural Porch Fest was a great success, and we're looking forward to this year's being even better. More information can be found at www.lbny/arts.org. Lastly, we'd like to congratulate Long Beach resident Kristen Delaney Gill on being the top woman finisher in this past weekend's Long Island Marathon. She won with an amazing time of 3 hours, 3 minutes, and 9 seconds. It's a 22nd marathon and second win. Congratulations, Kristen. So that concludes the city manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for the report. Before we get to the agenda, I feel the need to clear up some misconceptions that may have been presented at the previous City Council meeting of April 16th. I want to make sure that everyone understands that some of the opinions voiced in that meeting are not the official position of the City of Long Beach, and certainly not the position of the Long Beach City Council. In that last meeting, the qualifications of an applicant for the City Board of Ethics were questioned because the applicant had previously run for the Long Beach City Council. It was inferred, if not outright stated, that the applicant should not be approved for the appointment to the Ethics Board because of his political affiliations, and as such, he was a politician. Unfortunately, these opinions also appeared to question the integrity of the applicant in some form. Hopefully that was not the intent. It probably wasn't. The Long Beach City Charter explicitly states the following in Section 14. Opinions not to affect appointments. No appointment to any position under the city government shall be made or withheld by reason of any religious or political opinions or affiliations or political service. And no appointment or election to or removal from any office or employment, and no transfer, promotion, reduction, reward, or punishment shall be in any manner affected or made by reason of such opinions, affiliations, or service. That's verbatim from Section 14 of the Long Beach City Charter. I think it's important to note that the applicant for the Ethics Board, John McQuaid, was present at the meeting, and his suitability for a position on the board was questioned because he had run for office, as if that should preclude any citizen from working in government. We don't want any of our residents to have to endure that sort of treatment in the future. Whatever your political affiliations or beliefs or opinions, you are entitled to apply for positions and be considered to serve in our government. And of course, that goes for religious beliefs as well. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, so that it's not a city policy. Thank you. And now we can begin the agenda.
I'd like to respond. I'd like to respond.
Okay,
I
certainly.
was here at the meeting. Nobody questioned his ethics. Nobody. I don't know what meeting you were at, but nobody here questioned his ethics. What we said was when it's an ethics board, it doesn't...
Who's we? Excuse me, who is we?
John and I.
John, is he speaking for you?
I'll let you know after he finishes.
That when it comes to ethics, it doesn't look good to have a politician who ran with the city manager on the ethics board, any other board, But what I am curious about is when the ethics board was posted, John did not apply. When we were having problems finding people, John did not apply. When they said we have to cut it down because we can't get the people, John did not apply. Other people applied, and somebody who was from the opposite party was removed. Somebody who showed up, who came to every meeting, who applied timely, who went through the entire process, was removed to replace her with John. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I don't think somebody should have been removed so that a running mate of the city manager could be placed in that position. That's all we said. That's not questioning John's ethics. And I resent that you even indicated that.
Well, Roy, that is not all you said, because you said because he was a politician and he ran for office, he shouldn't be considered. And that's the point. We're not going to go against the charter. That's all.
You did. You eliminated somebody who had properly applied, who was not in the same party. You eliminated her so that you can make room for somebody from the same party.
That's not against the charter, John.
Well,
Roy.
it is exactly what you just said.
John? Okay, thank you.
To say anything.
We can begin the agenda now.
Okay. As previously announced, item 12 has been taken off the calendar. Item 12 has been taken off the calendar. Our first item for tonight is a public hearing for the purpose of giving citizens an adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on the general summary of the proposed budget for the year July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Okay. Before I turn over the presentation to Ina, I'd like to cover some of the basics of our budget as presented. So, Jeff,
My apologies, but a number of us have been here to pay attention to what you had to say about item 12 on the agenda. Just to come to this meeting because it was removed without any other context. That's slightly disrespectful. If we can have some understanding as to why it was removed. That would be correct.
I can answer that.
Well, you know, I know from this side, we have no idea why it was removed. No idea.
Roy, please, let's just try to follow procedure, all right?
Yeah, so if you want, I can answer that. There is a lot of residents that reached out that are very upset about it, about the possibility of having their, well, yeah, and you guys probably included. It was supposed to be brought up in the pre-meeting. We got stuck on another item, but there's many residents who have a big concern about the height of the wall, losing their space on the canal that they are accustomed to use, and I know it's been brought up in some of our work sessions and whatnot, that certain people up here want to remove that space from the people who live on the canals. I don't believe in it personally. I'm not a politician, so I'll tell you that to your face. I think it's wrong. I think if it was ever going to be done, it could have been done during Sandy, or it could have been done 3 years ago when they built the original bulkheads. Because if you're going to do it then. Don't have people spend money on decks, pavilions, docks, and everything else, and then say, hey, it's, we want to do this, that, and the other thing now. So there's a lot of controversy around it, and if I lived in your area, I'd be right where you are, pretty pissed off. So that's why. We got an agenda a week before. We go through it. Unfortunately, I'm not speaking for all of us, but all of us did not get an opportunity to go through it because, which we usually, all of us as a group, go through the agenda items beforehand. In this case, we didn't because we got stuck on something, so it's a last-minute thing that I asked to pull off the agenda. We'll let you know, and I'll let you know personally, Audra, 100%. Nobody's looking to blindside you. Yeah, 100%. That's, I think, we all live, that's why I pulled it off.
I'd like to add to the answer.
I don't want to railroad anybody with that.
As Chris just said, we didn't get a chance to discuss it prior to this meeting. which I think would be a disservice to everybody else, who especially you came here for that. I think this topic, this agenda item, is much more complex. That we need to have at least more informed opinions so that we can present them to you, and you can present your opposition or advocacy for it. So,
And there's so many things I don't know, and I'm only going to speak for me. I don't know if it's FEMA mandated from the money we took from Sandy to build the canals. I don't know any of that. I know that I have concerned citizens, friends, family, and everybody else who've reached out to me with concern, and that's what I was elected for, is to make sure that I'm addressing those things. Your voice will be heard, I promise you. Okay.
Council, do you have reason to believe it may come up as part of a future meeting?
Yeah, all we did was table it, so we had the opportunity to discuss it, and if I don't know how it'd work, if we can do it into a work session one day.
we'll put it on the next agenda.
Or we can put it on next agenda, we can all meet. If there's a group of you that would like to meet, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people over there who know how to get a hold of me. So I'd be happy to meet with you, and are you waving? I asked me a question. Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm happy to meet. I'm sure anybody up here is happy to meet to discuss this. Yeah, I give you my word, I'm not going to vote on anything that is going to blindside anybody. If I was a resident there and accustomed to a way of living, I wouldn't want it just taken away overnight. I get it.
There was a wet piece of paper on my porch, which was my notification, that it would be an agenda item. at this
Yeah.
meeting. So just that in and of itself. From a name.
Yeah.
From a name,
Yeah.
not the city.
Yeah. Again, we got the agenda a week before. I found out about it. I reached out to probably mutual friends, their concern. I had a lot of people reach out to me. I don't think it's something, when you change the landscape of somebody's home, where they live, it's not a decision we're going to make in 10 minutes. It's, yeah. You could leave. If you go anywhere good, have a drink for me.
Or you can speak at good and welfare.
Yeah, at the end, you're going to
You can speak at good and welfare if you want to do that.
Who's the lady? Yeah, it doesn't. And you don't know anything about it, right?
Gentlemen, can I just ask a question? How many people are in this room right now?
Sir, we have good and welfare afterwards. You can get up and speak. You're more than welcome to. I'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you.
You're good? Good to go back to the slide. So like I said, we'll have Ina present most of the budget. If you could go to the next slide, Dave. First, let me talk about the guiding principles of the budget, the items we want to make sure are addressed while doing the budget. We want to make sure residents continue to get the high quality of services from the city. We tried to make sure that while reducing costs, we were not reducing services received by residents. We also wanted to make sure that Long Beach continued to be a safe and secure city. So we were focused on, police, fire, et cetera. Wanted to keep Long Beach looking great as quality of life is very important to all of us. So that was a main part of what we looked at. We also wanted to make sure that we made decisions that continue to help Long Beach be prosperous, fiscally sustainable, and economically viable. To do this, we also had to stop borrowing money for operating expenses and build healthy fund balances. Next slide.
Hold on, I lost the slides.
So in recent years,
Well, they lost the slide.
Yeah, hold on a second. I know, hold on a second. My connection just dropped. Just give me 1 second, please. There it goes. Oh, it didn't still connect. You hard, baby. Yeah, that's never happened before. Okay, hold on 1 second. Give me one second. I'm just waiting for it to reconnect. Give me... There we go. Okay. Okay.
Okay, which one are you on? All right. It's not on that?
Give it a second. It'll come up.
You're up? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So in recent years, the city has spent a lot of effort in developing the budget and controlling its expenses. Long Beach has done such a great job improving finances that it went from one of the most fiscally stressed cities in the state to a much more stable city fiscally. Our credit rating has improved from Baa3 in 2021 to an A3 rating this year, resulting in lower interest rates for the city, which translates to savings for our residents. Next slide. Some highlights of this budget is presented. Property tax increases for homestead residents is 1.04%, or approximately $53 on average. We have been challenged by the City Council to reduce this further to zero, and are still working on making that a reality. So we're not done, we're still making some changes. Sales tax revenue remains strong and looks to be strong into the future. Unfortunately, it's probably due to inflation. Most of the proposed expenditures are up by about $2.7 million, most of which is an increase in police department salaries from the contract entered into last year. That's about approximately $2 million. I believe it was, the contract was probably settled right after the budget was determined. So that was not included in last year's budget and had to be made up this year. There are also increases in pension and health insurance premiums of approximately $900,000, almost $1 million. Ina, probably I'll turn it over to you here, and if you want, I'll jump in. Okay.
Take the mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I will take a couple of minutes to go over the budget in general and the budget process. The budget is a plan of how to deliver services to the city residents. And the budget process is probably one of the most important activities undertaken by the government. Development of the budget starts in January. It starts with the distribution of the information to the to the departmental managers. They receive their budget and budget to actual data on the spending in their respective departments, and from July to December. And as a result of that, they are able to develop their requests for the next fiscal year budget. They bring those requests to the city manager, and then city manager meets with all the departments, myself too, and the city manager, we meet with the departments and appropriate commissioners and discuss those requests, budget requests. Budget requests are discussed and negotiated, and the results of these negotiations is presented in the form of the proposed budget. That budget is due to the City Council on April 10th, and it's posted on the city's website by April 20th. You can find that document under the on the city's website under government, and then budget and financial information. You have years worth of operating and capital budgets there. I also want to make sure that I mention that the New York State Office of the State Comptroller reviews this proposed budget. They review all the material assumptions that go into the development, and they release their report to the City Council not later than 10 days before they're due to vote on the budget, so it should be available by the end of this week. And then they basically opine on whether those assumptions in a budget are reasonable or not, both on revenue and expense side. This document, if you had a chance to review it, it's 219 pages long. It's a comprehensive document that allows the reader to really evaluate the operations of the government, its components, and it also includes city managers' message, as well as demographic information, financial policies, and capital plan. This format and components included in the budget document is prescribed by the National Advisory Council on State and Local Budgeting, as well as the GFA Best Practices on Budgeting. The city budget received in 2022 and 2023, it received Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. Only 5 out of 62 cities in New York State received this award. You might ask, like, why bother, and what's the goal of this program? The goal of this program is to produce the highest quality budgets, and the highest quality budgets are those that inform and engage residents and provide transparency into how your tax dollars are spent. So, goal of every year budget is really to keep the tax levy to keep the tax rate increase to a minimum. So this proposed budget shows the increase in tax levy of $1.5 million. Does that mean that it will be piercing the tax cap? No. It's under the tax, the increase. The levy increase has 2 components in it. One of them is the tax levy growth factor, which is basically the new construction. The new developments on the ocean side of the city generated about $900,000, and that was added to the levy without any increases to any of the existing taxpayers. So the rest, about a little over $600,000, as Dan had mentioned, which is about 1% of increase is increase in tax rates. There were increase in pilot payments. Pilots are payments in lieu of taxes. Is at about $150,000. That's due to the rental building in Angle Berman development. Next slide, please.
So just to highlight real quick, so there is about 600, as she mentioned, $600,000 worth of tax levy increase based on existing residents that are here and an increase in the budget. The rest of that increase really goes to new development in Long Beach, which helps make up a little bit of the increase to our budget. So we're still striving, though, however, that 1.04 we understand is not good enough. And we are working with our partners in CSEA to try to figure out what we could do to even get rid of that 1.04% and bring it down to 0 for everybody, for residents.
So I will go really quickly through this next pages because basically, no, actually no, not through this page. This one shows the revenue at a glance for the city, and this page is a comparison between 24 and 25 budgets proposed to adopted. So next slide, please. The major takeaway here would be that the components and their respective percentages in the overall revenue for the city didn't change. So the property taxes, they corresponded to 57%, both in 24 and 25. I could see you're taking pictures, but this will be online tomorrow. The departmental income, which is beach revenue, various recreation revenue, sanitation revenue, represents 19% of our overall revenue, both in last year and this year. And we collect other taxes, sales taxes, from the county passes on to us, and also what we get from the New York State directly called the Signanti tax, so that's about 7% of our overall revenue. So that shows how we make our revenues. Next slide, please. So with this couple of next slides is really a summary of detailed departmental budgets that we have in our proposed budget book. It's summarized here by the function, and like done on that particular slide, you will see the General Governmental Support Department. So this is back office operation. This is Controller's Department, IT Department, all those departments, Corporation Counsel, and other departments that are not really involved in public safety or recreation or economic development, and in my mind, they're really a back office operation. Next slide. Here you have 4 different categories: education, public safety, transportation, and economic development. Again, this corresponds to the detailed budgets in the proposed budget that you can find on our website. And there you could see exactly how each of those department budgets was constructed. Next slide. Next slide is total recreation and total home and community services. And is it public safety? Recreation, yeah. And then the next one is employee benefits and interfund transfers. Why it's broken down in those categories? It's really for the state controller and for the different organizations and authorities on a national level to be able to compare government to government. So when the Office of State Controller comes to review our operations, they could see that, okay, we spend 15% on the government support, and that should be within the same percentage that other governments in the state are spending. And if it's a lot more or a lot less, that would bring up red flags. So this basically groups our operations into the categories that can be comparable from government to government. Next slide. Okay, and this one, slide is a chart that shows how each one of those categories, what percentage they represent in the overall operations of the city. So you could see that the total employee benefits are 25%, and it's right now the highest percentage of all the categories in the pie. Public safety, which is police and fire, is 19%. General governmental support is 18%, and total home and community services is 10%. Well, that's a different slide. Can you go to the next slide and then come back? No, go back. Back, yeah, that's okay. So what this, and go to the next one, please.
Sorry.
Next one, please. Okay. So what this slide represents, it's really very, very telling. I don't know if you could see the numbers and percentages from. Okay, I will talk to you then. Okay. So what it shows is the
Change the text.
the same expenses of the city, only broken down by different categories. And so the first line here is the payroll, and that's in 2025 budget, it's $38.5 million. That represents 36.8% of the budget. The next line is termination pay of $2.5 million, fringe benefits of $26 million, other than personal-related and debt service expenses in amount of $17,655,000, worker compensations and judgment and claims in amount of $2.5 million, and a debt service of a little bit over $17 million. Altogether, it adds up to $104 million and $775,085. So, this table shows that really that when we sit down and we develop this budget, we don't have the discretion of $104 million. Even though the budget is $104 million, a lot of those categories, they're not discretionary. So our payroll of $38 million, majority of that payroll is paid to the union employees, to police, fire, and CSA employees. They have either existing or expired agreements, and as per those agreements, there are built-in increases there. So there isn't much flexibility within that category. The next one here is the termination payroll, and the termination payroll is what the city pays out to its employees who had terminated from the service through various ways of attrition and had accumulated sick, vacation, personal pay on their accounts, and as they terminate, we pay it out. Okay, so we have about $2.2 million of the known termination pay because we paid over the years. For the police, we paid over 5 years, and we know that next year we'll pay $2.3 million. That's already for the employees that had retired from the service. And since there will be more employees who will definitely terminate next year, there is a little bit of a safe harbor there to account for that. Next category there is really everything else other than the debt service, the workers' comp, the fringe benefits, the termination pay, the total payroll is where the city has most discretion. But even though we have a discretion there, it's not a full discretion because a lot of those expenses we're paying based on the existing agreements with the consultants, agreements with the various maintenance companies, for the agreements for various supplies, equipment. So again, it's not $104 million that the city has a full discretion over. Fringe benefits. Fringe benefits consist of the health insurance, Social Security, and various other categories of the benefits, fringe benefits. But city continues to pay health insurance to its retirees. So out of about over $14 million that we've budgeted for next year to pay for the health insurance, about 33% of it is for the people who are now no longer employed by the city. So again, that's something that we are bound to pay, but have no real way out of it. Debt service is calculated based on a debt service schedules. Every year we issue debt to fund our various general water, sewer projects, and we pay for the transportation, for the roads, for the public safety projects and equipment purchase. We borrow to pay for it, and then we pay for it over years. So this year it's $17.4 million. It's worthwhile to mention that a good portion of that goes towards the payment of the debt that the city had acquired during the time that it was financially mismanaged and the city was borrowing for that termination pay that I talked about, right? So the city would borrow $2.5 to $3 million to pay for the termination pay every year. And now you, the residents, are paying for something that you're getting really no benefit from. So that's why it's important to finance operating expenses with the operating revenues. Next slide. This just shows this chart shows the comparison of how your dollars spent from 2024 to 2025. I don't know how well you could see that, but the orange ones are 24 and the blue ones are 25. You could probably tell that in some of the categories the blue section is bigger than the orange one, and that's in the category of the public safety. So for the police contract, the settlement of police contract had, I think we lost slides again.
$2 million.
It increased the budget to budget by $2 million, because that $2 million increase that really occurred this fiscal year was not put into the 2024 operating budget. The contract was not settled when the budget was proposed and adopted, so it was the intent of the city's administration and the council to use the fund balance to pay for this increase. It's worthwhile also to mention that it's really not a year-to-year increase, because that's for the contract that has not been settled since 2016. So it was an incredible contract that didn't, the city didn't have to pay out any retro, but basically from 2016 to 2025, the increase was $2 million. Next slide. Dave, we don't have the slides.
Sorry?
Now we do. Okay, this one talks about the fund balance, and it shows the trend. Back in 2019, when the city was in really, really bad financial shape, the city had a deficit of $2.9 million. It went even lower to $5.3 million in 2020, to go up in 21 to almost $4 million, 10.6 in 2022, and $14 million in 2023. And it's important to notice that this fund balance is important to the city for many different reasons. One of them is the New York State Office of the State Comptroller prescribes what the unassigned fund balance percentages should be, just as the GFA does, and that allowed the city to escape that most financially stressed title that what we had. A couple of years ago, we were the most fiscally stressed municipality in a state. So building that fund balance helped us to escape that. Plus, we got the Moody's rating increases, which now saves money on the borrowing. And also, having this fund balance allows us to invest money, and you will see the interest income that we are proposing to use in fiscal 2025 budget. Next slide.
Do you want me to talk some of this, the risks? So I wanted to add in this slide at the end to talk about risks. So just to highlight, the budget is fairly conservative. When we thought that there were areas that we may not receive the income that we expected to receive, we reduced the income numbers. We wanted to make sure that we were being safe and not overly optimistic in this budget. So there are always going to be risks. I mean, legal, as we know, can always be a risk. If we have another Haberman lawsuit come against us or something like that, we're not going to be able to meet the budget with it. So legal is always a risk that we need to keep, out there. We do not have in this budget the future contracts. So we know that there's a firefighter contract still out there since, I believe, 2014. The increase in rates that we will expect to see if we settle that contract or not in this budget. There's also CSEA contract coming up next year, but I believe that's in the next budget. Mortgage tax. We make a certain assumption on mortgage tax that based on sales, we did reduce it a little bit with the higher interest rates, so we were conservative on it. But let's say no houses in Long Beach sell next year, we won't get the income we expected to get from mortgage tax. But we do believe we were very conservative in that, and we have a good number in there. Health insurance, we put in a healthy number for increases in health insurance, but there's always a risk that health insurance rates have been increasing much faster than was expected in the past. So we kept a high number in there as well, but it's always a risk. Interest rates, we are benefiting right now from higher interest rates in one area and not benefiting it from another area. So obviously our borrowing is going to cost more now, but our interest on investments goes up. So interest rates we kind of expect to go down a little bit, which means there'll be less revenue. So we took that into account in our estimates, but it can also go up and cost us more money in borrowing and debt service. So these are just things to keep in mind. We do believe that we were almost overly cautious in this and made sure we were conservative in our adjustments and our guesstimates, but there are always risks. So I just want to make sure we highlight that to the community. So I think, is there another slide after this?
A little bit about the opportunities. Ice Arena.
That's true. So with every risk comes opportunity. We were very cautious and conservative as well on our estimates of opportunities. We do believe that we could raise a lot more money in the ice arena. However, we took what we've been getting over the last few years and put that in the budget. If we're successful, we'll see more money coming in, more revenue coming in than we expected. Beach, we also expect to be more diligent in our enforcement of beach revenue items, and we feel that there's more opportunity at the beach to make more money. We've been also collecting more money, but in our estimate on the budget, we focused on what we're getting, trended that, and extrapolated that out, and make sure that we were cautious and we were not being overly optimistic. So there are opportunities in this budget as well to do much better than we think we're doing. I also think that in next year's sales of beach passes, there could also be a significant amount of income if we change the manner in which we sell beach passes. We feel that we could capture more revenue. and that is also not included in this budget. So if we are successful in that, we should see better numbers going into next year's budget. Ina, do you have? Next slide.
I can either go through water and sewer now, or maybe take questions on the general fund. General fund?
Yeah, I think general.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we discuss general fund now, and then we'll move to the other operating funds.
Okay, we have questions from the council on the general fund.
You know, when, on the key points, you say changing tax levy due to tax-based growth factor. Does that, you know, to me, as not an accountant, it sounds to me like we have $914,000 more because of the increased value of the assessed value.
Yes,
So that's a positive. So
that's a
that was-
positive, that most of it goes to Angle Berman.
Right. And the
Redevelopment.
assessed home market value doesn't affect us because that's just,
No.
we don't get that money yet.
No,
And the increased pilot, that's from the rentals
in Angle
municipal-
Berman, yep.
So generally, we brought in $1,070,000 about.
Well, less whatever they used to pay us on the land before they built on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the increase.
That's not a net, that's a gross number.
It's
It's not a net number. It does not account for the loss of revenue, of tax revenue that we were receiving on the land when nothing was built on it.
So it is an increase of $1 million?
It's less than $1 million, yeah.
All right. What is the difference between the pilot and what we were getting?
I will look into it and we'll post it online.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, John.
Just want to provide some, I guess since we're doing, since we're doing clarifications, I guess I want to just provide some clarity on some of the guiding principles that were talked about early on. It talks about discontinuing the reliance on borrowing to pay operating expenses. Well, that happened 2 years ago. We stopped borrowing to pay operating expenses a couple of years ago. And Dave, could you put the slide back up with the general fund, the graph? And then there was talk about restoring the city's general fund balance. Well, the city's general fund balance right now is the highest it's probably been in 15 years. And if you, not that one, the graph, that one.
Nope.
Nope, you passed it.
Right there, right. Nope.
Keep shooting past it.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
This one.
We'll say stop when you hit it. Keep going.
This one.
Stop.
Oh, okay.
So the fund balance, as you can see there, the city was, in 2020, had a hole in its bank account. So there was a lot of work put into getting that fund balance to where it is today. And some tough decisions had to be made, some ugly decisions, but they needed to be made to get the city back to where it needed to be and where it is today. As far as the city's fiscal stress monitoring score, we came off of that list in 2022. Again, because of the work that was put in to get the city turned around financially. So I commend the comptroller and the city manager. They put a lot of good work into this budget, a lot of hard work. The city manager and the comptroller are not going to be happy with me because today I gave them 161 questions about the budget. So they're going to have some work to do. But, you know, the simple fact is, and I'm not taking anything away from the work our city manager and our comptroller have done this year on the budget, But the simple fact is this budget is riding the coattails of all the hard financial work that's gone into turning this city around over the last few years.
And Nina,
The-
I have to say, we went from a minus 5 million to a plus 15 million, and you were a really big part of that. Thank
Sure.
you.
And one of the reasons this tax increase is as low as it is because we're going to get more interest from that fund balance this year than this city has gotten in years. Any money we borrow for capital projects, we're going to pay lower interest rates on because over the last few years, we got this city 3 Moody ratings upgrades, 3, in a little over a 2-year period, which is unheard of in the financial world. So I just want to make people aware that this didn't happen in a vacuum. This is built on some long, hard work that Ina was part of and other people here in City Hall, and now the new council is going to be part of it, taking it forward to get us to where we are so you can get this lower tax increase. So I just wanted to say that for people so they understand.
I just want to thank a few more people that I don't think got credit, and that is the men and women of the CSEA. It's not a matter of thinking. I know we wouldn't be able to get where we are right here and where we want to go to zero without the cooperation of John Mooney and his entire staff. So I just want to thank all you guys for your cooperation and your sacrifices to the city. Thank you very much. And I want to just point out too, these ratings and increases, these decreases, this is all done without a tax hike. In the past, how municipalities raise their bond ratings with, tax increases, and we're going to pledge to continue forward freezing taxes. So again, thank you guys for helping us with that.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, the other people to thank, quote unquote thank, are the residents of Long Beach who have endured really some tough tax increases over the past 4 years. So let's not forget about that.
I'd like to get some of those people to come back here. I got a question probably for Dan and Ina.
Thank you to Dan and Nina, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, thank you guys, too. What Dan spoke about risk and opportunities, one of the things looking at the previous budget was there seemed to be, as Dan said, we conservatively estimated the projections for income, which I think are really important so that we don't saddle the next budget with a problem that we can't fix. Don't make promises that you can't fulfill. And, I think that you guys should be commended for that this year on this budget, because that conservativeness, that conservative attitude, I think will take us a long way going forward. We did not have that going into this year. There was quite a shortfall between projected income and actual income, as far as I could tell, and I'm hoping that we're going to change that in a very positive direction this year. So thank you for your conservative attitude on that. Thanks. Questions from the public? Tim Kramer.
Hi, Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway. I have 2 questions. I'd like to get the answers to those 2 questions and come back. So do I see this right? Debt service is roughly 16.5%. Is that?
I think it's 18. Is it 18?
Well, that's personal related and debt service. So is just debt service is 16.58. Is that correct?
The debt service is, one second, bear with me.
$16.58.
16.58, okay, there we go. So now that my second question is, was there ever, I'm sure there was, a cost analysis for the superblocks, a tax abatement for the superblock? On average, what is the cost analysis in 2024? Like, what is the average property tax payer paying, you know, or I'm not sure if, so there's a tax abatement that we would be getting if they were paying full taxes, correct? Does that make, is my question making sense so far?
Yeah, it's too early. You're talking about for the rental property that has a tax abatement, not the other two, correct? I believe.
Well, there's a tax abatement on the condominiums as well,
No,
wasn't there?
just on the rental.
Just in the rental?
Just on
So
the rental.
roughly, what would that be per,
It's hard to say because we don't have the income yet from the other two, but you would assume it would be 1/3 of the buildings because you have 3 buildings there, so figure 1/3 of the overall.
So on
with
a
half of the-
rental building, it all depends on how much income, net income, that be able to generate from it, because that would be considered the commercial property. The commercial tax is calculated as a percentage of the total revenue.
Right.
It's hard to tell. They're not fully rented as of yet, so maybe when they're at 100%, we could tell. Their expenses probably this year, they might be breaking even, right? Because the expense of running the buildings could be
Right.
just whatever they're collecting from the rent. But once they're operating at 100% capacity, we can compare that to whatever they pay in lieu of taxes and answer your question.
okay,
Tim,
so,
Tim, when we were appearing in front of the IDA, it was, and this is a few years ago, but they projected they would save between 30 and I think $60 million.
over the 25 years?
Yes.
Okay, so substantial increase for the taxpayer. I mean, that money's got, you know, that loss is being made up by the taxpayer. Okay. So, you know, the 16.58, honestly, that's a substantial part of our budget that's being wasted, in all honesty. And I would argue, Mr. Bendo, that the hard work is from the taxpayers that in coming up with that additional money to pay the additional taxes that put us in this better financial position. The hard work is on us. The hard work wasn't on you. It's on the homeowner, the taxpayer, that came up with the additional money in taxes. The 30% over the 4 years, the hard work was on us, not you. So the other thing I would say is that, so that, a lot of pressure on the homeowner, on the taxpayer, and there's additional pressure on the homeowner and taxpayer with the Haberman and the abatement with the superblock. So I would just finish by saying I really hope that this council can make better decisions in the homeowners, with the homeowners and taxpayers in mind, because there will be a straw that will break the camel's back, and we're seeing that with the loss in revenue with the businesses out of in town. So 16% the Haberman, the superblock, these are bad deals. These are bad deals, and it's just really frustrating. I'm sorry.
Tim,
Thank you for saying that, Tim. I appreciate your questions, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about with conservative projections sometimes. You can't project things that you may not get. If you can do it, but then you end up paying for it, and that's one of the problems.
What are you talking about specifically?
When you create a budget and you don't achieve the income that you expected to get, and I think you're talking about the same thing in terms of we're not getting income from tax revenue because of various things, sometimes out of our control and sometimes within our control.
Well, I think my main point is, again, the homeowner, the hard work was on us, and then secondly, this Haberman thing really grinds me, because I'm going $2,000 a year over 30 years, and I don't care what anybody says, that's a bad deal, and, the 150 to 75, still a bad deal. And if you think it's a good deal, you shouldn't be sitting on that stage.
Yeah, I think it was the
Yeah.
worst deal
Thank you.
in the history of the city. I agree. And I got a question for you. The tax abatement for when was that done? Who approved that? What year? What was the reason? What year? Does anybody know?
I believe it was 2020 or 2020? 2021? 2020?
What tax abatement are you talking?
For the condo building.
It's pilot, the pilot you're
It's for the
talking about.
rentals, not the condos
Yes.
are not
Yeah.
eligible for tax
Right, but the
abatement.
other building, we gave an abatement?
No, all
That
right.
approved?
So let me explain, because there's obviously a fundamental
I don't know. That's what I'm
lack of
asking.
understanding
Yeah.
of how this works.
Please.
The tax abatements are given by the Nassau County Industrial
Yeah, the
Development
IDA, right.
Agency. They are political appointees from the county. They're not elected.
Yeah.
And they are empowered to go into any community and give tax abatements. There was a tax abatement proposed for the super block. As far as I know, looking around the room, Councilman Lester and I were the only people in this room that showed up at that hearing and spoke against the pilot. So there was a decision made by the county. We had no say in
Forced on
it.
us type of thing?
What's that?
It's forced on us type of thing?
It's forced on us.
No subsidies or anything, nothing we can do, right?
Not even a seat at the table.
God almighty.
No.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Eileen?
It seems unfair.
Eileen Hessian. I don't like to pay taxes either, and I'd like to point my finger at somebody and blame them for raising my taxes. But I'm not going to point my finger at the Haberman situation, because that started 30 years ago. And the people that were on the boards for many years didn't do anything about it, and the cost of the what we borrowed, or the original cost, was less than the interest, because people let it sit and sit and sit. It was finally the last council that said, it's time to get rid of that thing and let's pay it off, and that's what they did. There is someone that I could blame, well, I'm not going to say that, never mind, for a problem that could have been avoided on that thing, but that was years ago also. I would say I was going to come up here with the same slide with that nice looking chart that shows how it went from in the last few years. The chart went straight up. That makes our houses worth more. It's a good thing that the last council did. Over the last few months, since the new members have been up here, they've been saying, I've only been on the board for a short time, so I'm not sure about things. I think everyone new has said that, and of course that's true. You don't know how things work. These two guys have been up here for a while, and they have a lot of experience, and I'm not saying 100% of everything that they've ever done was right, but look at that graph again, and you can see that a lot of the things that they did were right, and a lot of the things that they get blamed for are not their doing. They're centuries old, practically. Not centuries, decades. So I think what I really want to say is there's an awful lot of hostility on this board, and I wish you could all get along and take advantage of the newness, the experience, and just work together, because we all want you to succeed. No matter what party it is, all the people back here want you to succeed. But if it's going to be a group against a group, it's not going to. It's so frustrating to sit out there and listen to the arguing and see how you don't work together. Please, work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eileen.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more with what you just said. We certainly want to work together, but I do have to say that I got tired of paying taxes all those years. Okay, didn't everybody in this room? Okay, and that's pre-Haberman. So those tax increases happen year after year after year, and we're aiming to stop it.
You know, I'm gonna address that, because the other option would have been, we could have continued with the way things were going in the city, with budgets that overestimated revenues, underestimated expenses, and borrowing millions of dollars every year to pay operating expenses. The reason you guys have it so easy this year with this budget is because of what we did. We made the ugly decisions because we had the political backbone to make those tough decisions. We're taxpayers too. This impacted us too. And we keep talking about this Haberman deal. We were accumulating $1.1 million per month in interest on that. We hired probably one of the best law firms in the country to bring this thing to closure. So saying this was a bad deal or we could have done better, that's easy coming from Monday morning quarterbacks that weren't in the room once when we were fighting this.
One of the questions is, John, you're directing your hostility, I understand, is that why didn't someone step in and make that offer and stop the Haberman deal long before it got promulgated by a judge? Why didn't that happen?
You would have to
okay,
ask.
that's one thing. The second thing is, we're talking about over projections of income. We just looked at a budget from last year that had that, and we're dealing with that now. That's what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
Where?
Oh, yeah.
Where?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah, take a look.
You're talking fiction
Let's-
here.
Ronnie?
What's that?
Evening, gentlemen. You know,
Good evening.
the taxes went up. They made decisions last year, but there were other things. Okay, I'm not, it's much better this year, but the taxes could have been half. I'm going to tell you how. Now, our fees maxed out with the Bendo administration. They could have got money elsewhere. So where would they get money? Well, there's a big pot of gold, and it's the overtime. It's $5 million plus last year, and a little under $5 million this year. Not your fault. They didn't want to attack the overtime. Then you get the firemen, salaries up to 400 G's. That was the biggest grab I ever saw in my life in the city. 4 years. They knew what was going on. Mr. Pinto was basically like a kidnapper, a terrorist, by getting rid of these paramedics. If he would have left them alone and went by the agreement, he violated his agreement, right? It was fine. The overtime was cool. Then all of a sudden, he becomes president. He don't like it. He wants 32 firemen back. He wants the old firehouse back. He wants everything. He wants a captain. He wants a chief. He wants this. He wants that. Really? So what happened? Overtime. Crazy. Up to $1.5 million. A couple $1 million in overtime. What was the ransom? Well, the ransom is, give me the men I need, that I want, when you're only fighting 5 fires a year. That ain't my fault. That ain't the people's fault. You know, if it was an active firehouse, God, we need them. We have volunteers that will do it. We know they can do it. They said they could do it. Why don't they do it? Don't give these firemen these 4 in the budget. That's all I'm going to say. You got 4 in the budget. Do not appoint them. You got an impasse. You're going to go to fact finding, right? Well, I got about 5 facts that'll turn the Perry purple. You got them now. The bottom line is we don't need them to fight fire. That's a lot of money. And there's a lot of overtime. There's a lot. Dan, there's a lot of and you know it. And listen, you're right. You're on the job. You're doing good. But you're going to know within the next year how much overtime do we really need with the workforce and whatever. We got duplication of service 3 times. Do I have to write it out? Do I have to send letters to everybody? This is common sense. You got $5 million. If John would have listened to me, which he did a little on that, we would have been better off. In other words, the taxes would have been lower. Take the money from the pot of gold. And don't appoint those guys. Go to impasse and get the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Yes, over here.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah. This is Charles Gary, a taxpayer, homeowner, resident of Long Beach. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Charles Gary. I'm a homeowner, taxpayer, resident. Hey, Dan. How are you? I guess I would say, having lived in Long Beach for a few years now, perhaps not as long as some of the folks that have spoken here before and reliving, some of the major events of the past, 1% tax increase is good. It's, and don't let good get in the way of great. Obviously, we all want a 0% increase. But what's the town of Hempstead? What's the town of Oyster Bay? What's the town of North Hempstead? What about the Suffolk County towns? I mean, if you took that on average, 1%, the CPI is what, triple that. I don't really think that $53 is going to make or break a homeowner in the city for the most part, obviously. Everyone has different circumstances, but it'd be great to cut it down a little bit, but as the presentation had mentioned, a lot of these costs are fixed. You really don't have that much wiggle room. Certainly you do on the hot button issues like overtime, I guess, but it'd be great if you could lower it below 1%, but I don't think that you're going to get pushback in a majority of residents from a 1% increase. That's just my opinion. And I do have to go home because I have kids, but on the lifeguard hours issue, I know that it's traditionally been 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., so it's a 9-hour shift. And I saw on the item that you want to give the discretion to the chief of lifeguards, but it doesn't also mention that the hours would be at most 9 hours. So if you wanted to do like 8 to 5, I get that, but you're leaving it open to creating a situation where you could have hours that are in excess of 9 hours and create additional costs to the city. So perhaps you'd want to just perhaps clarify that in the item.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. James?
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street here in our great city. To each and every one of you, thank you for being our council members. Thank you for also just doing what you do. And you guys got to have the debate. Good debate is good debate. It may seem like it's a lot of fighting sometimes, but it doesn't matter which side you are on or which party affiliation you're on. All of you should debate what you feel, and sometimes you may do that behind the scenes, and sometimes the people need to see what you're actually fighting for. So it's healthy, as long as you're not attacking each other personally, but doing what you got to do to fight for what's right for our residents here in the city of Long Beach. I will say, as a former CSCA member, that when you're looking at the budget, I know you guys thank the CSCA, and we should always thank the CSCA and the unions, but when you're looking at the budget, please do not just try to cut from the lowest, from those that make the lowest in the whole budget, and that's CSCA. CSCA is always the ones that are thanked first a lot of times, because they're a lot of times the ones that's always saying, "We'll do, the members will agree," or the members will work with you. And I can't say enough about the great CSCA of Long Beach, which, again, I was honored to be a part of for 24 years under the leadership of several different union presidents, Joe and Colleen and Steve and now John. So again, thank God for our CSCA and all of the workers. But please, when you're looking to cut, as I would say, and yes, they could be working with you, but I say you should be looking to give those that's making the least in the city, do what you can to make them whole and even better, so they are making, if they would say I guess the area median income, I'm not exactly sure if it's 70,000, somewhere around there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but let's make sure all of the men and women can leave from work and take care of their families and make sure they have a roof over their head, beds and clothing, and also food on their tables for their families, not go from a hard day of work and not be able to provide for their families at home. So again, thank you as you diligently look through this budget. Ina, the white lines, you can't see that. I'm sorry, I'm just letting you know the white line. I can't see from back there, and I got
It did look better on the slide.
Yes, yeah. But you're doing amazing, Ina. All right, don't give me that look now. I was being good. No, that's a good look. But so again, let's continue working together and for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And I will say, as a civil service worker myself for much of my adult life, and closer to the bottom than I was to the top, I know it rolls downhill, and the last people we want to do harm to are the people who need it the most.
Thank you.
It looks like that's it, so we can move on to the next agenda item.
We have water and sewer fund.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, those are two separate items. Do we want to?
Okay, so
It's the second.
Wait, we have public hearings on the rates. Is that where we want to do
we
that
have
discussion?
slides on the water and sewer fund, so maybe
But, did you want to discuss that during the hearings for the rates or now?
it's up to the city council.
Yeah, they're separate agenda items.
Ina, I think what Dave's asking, Dave, I think what Ina's asking is, do you want to go over the budget for the water fund and the sewer fund, the budget, not necessarily the public hearing for the increases? That is what you're asking, right, Ina?
Yes. It's part of this presentation. It's the last slides. If you want me to talk about it when you guys are discussing the rate increases, we can do that, or we can discuss it now. You can ask me questions, the residents can ask me questions, and then...
Okay, I see a question already, so let's discuss it now.
Let's discuss it now.
Okay.
Can I discuss it? Can I present it before you're going to ask the questions? Yes. It's not on the rates, it's on the slides. So let me go over the slides, and then everybody will have an opportunity to ask questions. So maybe I will ask Joe Fabrizio to come here with me, because he is the master of all things water and sewer. So, water fund. Water and sewer fund, they cost us about more than $6.5 million each to run, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit and have Joe's help on it to talk a little bit about how we collect the revenue, right? So residents and commercial enterprises have water meters. And we measure how much water is consumed by all these bodies. So what is $6.5 million? That's what it cost us to make the water. We purify the water, we distribute the water, we administer the funds, we make the water. We collect it by multiplying the rates by the usage. The usage that has been recorded right now on a city's records is incorrect. And it's incorrect because your water meters are very old. They're way past their useful lives. And we knew about it for years now. And actually, we took upon the project of changing the water meters, right? So we're spending the money to make the water, but we're not collecting the right amount of money based on the current rates to fund this fund, because we're losing it on the incorrect reading of the meters. And I'm going to give it for 2 minutes to Joe so he can explain how we're going to fix it.
Sure. Last year in the capital budget, the City Council authorized a total of $6,667,000 to upgrade the 8,300 residential water meters that we have in the City of Long Beach residences. Now, the project actually, we had to retain a consultant, and we did that. We retained H2M to prepare a whole assessment, and they have basically assessed all the residential meters that are available on the market, and we actually made a selection, which is the Census electromagnetic meter, and the bids are actually due on May 23rd of this month for that project. So once we get the bids in, we're anticipating actually that it's going to be under budget. They're saying it's going to be approximately $5 million. We're going to award that project, and the intent is to start installing the new meters probably in September, because there's a long lead time on them, and it's about a 10 to 12 month project that we're going to start again in September. And to Ina's other point, it was an excellent point. The existing meters that we have in the City of Long Beach were purchased in the year approximately 2000. They're beyond their useful life. We're running into a problem now where the batteries are basically they're no longer useful, and they're actually going to get to a point where you're going to have to do manual readings at each house. Right now we have a drive-by system, but sooner or later they're going to have to actually go to the house and do each house individually. So we're kind of in a dire situation right now. And what happens when the meter gets older, it doesn't really read accurately. That's the problem. So we've been told that it's probably reading at 85 to 90%. So if you think about it in terms of what you just said, the water, I think we spent, what's the water revenue, $5 million, I think it was. So we're probably losing, well, if the water and the sewer combined are $10 million revenue, we're potentially losing 10%. So we're probably losing, $900,000 to $1 million a year. I mean, once we have all the new meters in, we'll see what the reality is, but they're definitely not functioning efficiently. So on that note, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. Joe explained it much better than I ever would. So this slide is the water fund presentation, and on the bottom you will see that it shows appropriations last year of $5.4 million, and this year it shows $6.3 million for the proposed budget. And the variance is really not that it's going to cost us $1 million more to run the fund. The $1 million is what we used last year from the water fund balance. And I'm a big proponent not to use the fund balance on operating expenses. Why not? Because it's like paying your car payments or your rent or mortgage with your savings account. At some point, you're going to run out of it, and you're not going to have any money for your car or your mortgage. So, but why was it okay to use it last year? Because we were anticipating that the meters will be changed, and therefore the total revenue, which is the product of rates times usage, will increase without increasing the rates. So it's not materializing. That's why we thought it's okay to use $1 million. The water fund had a healthy fund balance. We said it's okay to use $1 million of it last year. And if this year we would have had new meters, the rates wouldn't have to go up, but they have to go up because the usage is still being read incorrectly. Now, that being said, when the new meters are installed, I totally anticipate that the rates will go down to account for the fact that the usage will be read accurately. It does not mean that whatever you pay in total on your water bill will go down. It probably will not, most likely. But the usage will be higher, the rates will go lower, and you'll be paying, not next fiscal year, not 2025, but for the following one, if we do have new meters, we will adjust the rates again to make sure that we have sufficient revenue in the water fund. Next slide. So in a sewer fund, I would say maybe 7 years ago, the rates were, well, not 7, 19, 20, 6 years ago. The rates were established to be at 130% of the water rates, and that was due to the fact that sewer fund was really struggling financially and was borrowing money from the other funds, so they had to make up in that fund. We account for each fund separately. There is no crossover. We're legally not allowed to use water revenues on general fund expenses or sewer revenues on the water fund expenses. So we had to accumulate funds in the sewer fund to pay down whatever they owed. They were only able to borrow, right? So whatever they borrowed from other funds had to be paid back. We have a healthy fund balance there, and we are going to use it and lower the sewer rates to 90% of the water rates. So all in all, your overall rates between water and sewer not going to go up 25%. It's only going to go up 3.85%, 3.25%. It goes up because everything goes up. Health insurance goes up, property insurance goes up, you know, in your own household operation. So this will have to go up slightly, but all in all, when you will combine whatever the revenue items from the sewer and water total runs from this year proposed to the last year adopted, you will see that the variance is only 3%. So when there will be items that will be presented for the vote on the increase in water rates and the decrease in the sewer rates, I hope that I gave it a good enough explanation. And if not, still ask me questions.
I have a couple of questions. The water's been going up tremendously. The cost, the total expenditures. In the year ending 2021, it was 4.7. The year ending 2022 was 5.4. The year ending 2023, it was 5.78. And then last year it was 6.46. A lot of the biggest cost in the water is what's called interfund transfers. That's debt service, risk retention, stuff like that. Why is it going up so much? I mean, that's it's a much more than a 10% increase. Well, not.
I will let Joe
Yeah.
answer part of this question, and then I will add to it.
Yeah, Ina and I had this discussion, about the water fund at length. And, I probably, in my tenure, we're probably spending more money right now on the water fund than we have probably in the 30 years that I've been here.
More money on what, Joe?
On out of the water fund for water projects.
Yes.
And I'm just going to mention a couple of them that we're working on. We mentioned the water meter project, which is approximately $6 million. We also have the well number 16. We actually borrowed.
But those are capital projects.
Yeah, but you have to pay for it out of the operating fund. You pay the debt service on it. That's why it's on the water fund, because you have to pay the debt service. So even though it's a capital project, you have to pay the debt service on it out of the operating.
Mhm.
That's how it works. So now we have all, just imagine now we have all these water projects. We have an $18 million replacement of our water tank, which is 1.25.
Right, but we haven't spent that yet, and
That
yet,
one we haven't, correct.
and yet
We
our
bought-
debt service has gone up, keeps going up, but we haven't even spent that money yet. So
Right,
that
but no,
theoretically, it shouldn't affect the,
But there's other projects too. I didn't finish, right? So we have the Walks project, right? We borrowed $4 million for that project, and we're going to borrow, if everybody approves it, in the next in the capital budget presentation, which I'm going to do in 2 weeks, I'm going to ask for another $2.1 million to fund that project. So that's $6 million right there. Then we have the $6 million that we borrowed for the water meters, so that's up to $12 million. We have, well, we mentioned the water tower. We actually, there's $8 million authorized for it, but we didn't start paying debt on that yet.
have
right?
we borrowed the money for the water meters already?
That's borrowed. Yes, that's correct. The water meters is borrowed. That was
So-
borrowed last year. So
So-
we have the money, we're ready to go.
But-
The bids are due May 23rd, and we're hoping to award that probably in June, you'll see.
But last year, we expected the water meters to already be in.
That's not true. There's a process that we have to go through.
But we
And the
used
process-
that when, as I was told, we used that when we were figuring our, what we were going to take
think-
in as revenue in the water.
Yeah, quite honestly, I don't know if that was necessarily realistic because we had to put out the RFP, the request for proposals, to retain the consultant, to basically select the meter, and that was a process that probably took 6 to 12 months to do that whole process, to basically vet which meter we were going to use, which again is the census meter. So it's a long process. Now we're up to the point where we selected the meter, and now we go out to bid, and then we go to construction.
So when, you say it'll be 10 to 12 months.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Now-
The bids are coming in May 23rd.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if everything goes well, I'll probably have it on the council agenda, probably second meeting in June. There'll be, we'll have to do contract signing. That takes about 10 to 15 days. There'll be a lead time on ordering. It's 8,300 meters. So, I'm anticipating a September start date, and it should be done within a year. Remember, that includes all the
but-
software.
Right, but as we're doing meters, as meters go online, we start to collect that money, correct?
Well, you'll get the new readings. Yes, you're going to get the new readings.
So we don't
based
have
on
to
the new
wait the
meters.
full 12 months to start
No,
getting in money?
no. Again, until we have the contract signed, we won't, I'm going to have a schedule, and I'm going to see how many they're planning on doing and how fast they're going to do it. I'm hoping they'll have many crews doing this. But you will start seeing the benefit. You may not see the full benefit, quite honestly, but
Well, we'll be able to do comparative analysis for the properties that will be utilizing the new meters, and this time next year, we'll be able to reassess what the rates should be and if we can lower them for the 2026 budget.
But we will be having, from what I just understood, some of this income in the 25 budget, in the 24, 25.
yeah, towards the end. It would definitely be towards the end.
Joe, I have maybe a simplistic question. How long do water meters generally last?
About 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. And then, even the new one we're putting in, you can't replace the battery. You replace the meter, unfortunately. So there's not even, and the one we have, there's no, you can't even get the batteries anymore. You can't get the meter reading equipment, so to speak. We have like one control left, I think, that reads them.
Right. So it's a question, I just want to make do we need to plan, the planning of ordering them, we're losing, I just hear $1 million that we're losing on old water meters. Okay.
Yeah. And it is a projection. This is, based on my discussions with the meter manufacturers, with our consultant, generally they say when the meters are beyond their useful life, they start, I'm actually being conservative with 90%. They said they're really reading at like 80 to 85% capacity. So I'm saying 90, I'm using 10%. I'm hoping that's a conservative number. But unfortunately, in government, it's a process. We have to ask for the money in the capital budget. We have to put out an RFP. We have to retain the consultant. We have to have the council vote on the consultant. We have to have them prepare the report. We have to select and vet which meter we're going to use. And that's what we've been doing for the last year. And now we're actually at the point where the bid is due May 23rd in my office. And right after that, hopefully, if we get the right contractor and we have the money, and again, what they're projecting right now that it's going to be way under what we borrowed. They're projecting that it's going to be about $4.5 million, not the $6 million we borrowed. So hopefully, the next time I'm up here talking about meters, it's to ask the council to award it. That's my goal. But again, the main point that I wanted to help Ina with is that there's a lot of water projects going out there. Just real quick, we have the walks that was already bid. It's $4.7 million. I have the bid. We're starting that work after Labor Day. We have the well, which is $3 million. We have the meters, which is $5 to $6 million. So the water fund is definitely being stressed. So that's all the help I can give you.
Joe, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Joe, I have a quick question. The project being done in the walks, what is the reason behind that? Is something broken, or is it?
No, the walks. It's really interesting. They're all the homes in the walks are basically supplied by water from 4-inch diameter water mains. 4-inch diameter water mains that run behind the houses. So right now, behind each house in the walks, you have a 4-inch diameter water main. You have a 6 or 8-inch diameter sanitary sewer that are right next to each other. Right off the bat, that's a code violation. You would never be able to build, you wouldn't be able to put in 4-inch water mains today, and you wouldn't be able to put a water main and a sewer main in the same exact trench. Right
I
next to
imagine
each
they're
other.
grandfathered in because they're probably 50, 70 years old, right?
Well, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to, as part of this project, we're going to be installing new 8-inch diameter water mains down Walnut and Olive. We're going to be putting 6-inch diameter water mains down the actual walk itself. Then we're going to put a new copper service down their property line to the back of the house, disconnect the old 4-inch diameter water main, and connect to the new service with 1-inch copper. Okay, and not only are we going to do that, we're going to be putting in new brick pavers down the walks, so it's going to look really nice, permeable pavers, and we're going to be changing all the lighting. So we're going to put new colonial lighting on every walk. We're going to put 12-foot high post-top luminaires, just like on Doyle Street and Pacific. They're really nice. And again, we have the bid. It's $4.7 million. That was the low bid. It was Thomas Novelli Contracting. If the capital budget's approved next on the 21st, I'm going to be bringing that before the council in the first meeting in June to award the water main replacement project in the walks. But it's been a project that's talked about. We had a presentation. I know Mike Delory's here. December 6th with the Walks Association. It was very productive, I think, right? We had a great meeting with the residents. We probably had about 50 to 100 people there. 75 from the community. It was very, well received. It's going to be a complex project, believe me. Nobody wanted to touch this project, and we're going to be the ones to do it. So, but we'll get through it. Godspeed. But Mike's been, he's been really great helping me with this. So.
Do you still have questions, Mike? Do you want to wait till we get to the agenda item?
So that's all the help I can offer you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Those lights that Joe was talking about, all the other work, that still comes out of the water budget, the capital part of the water budget?
That's a good question, because the whole project is going to come out of the water fund. That's an interesting theoretically, generally when we do a public works project, say a road, we do you have to separate the general fund to the general fund component, the water fund to the water fund component, and the sewer fund to the sewer fund component. So theoretically, you would look at this and pull that component out, I guess. But
We will ask our bond counselor what's the best way to treat it. I guess it will have to do with, do we have to now change the lights because we did this water-related work, or is it just something that we're doing as a general improvement?
Gee,
And
all I
we'll
was
explain-
looking for was a yes or no.
I mean, somehow will have to pay for it. Either out of, I don't have yes or no because it's more of a legal question than just. It's a local environmental question. Yeah. I will always say no. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer.
Before you move on, I just got one question for Ina. Yeah, just, Ina,
Don't go.
in the budget, we've increased the revenue from metered water sales by $1.1 million over last year, predicated on the new meters reading more accurately. But what I just heard from Joe is the earliest the installations would start is September. It's the earliest. There's only going to be a small number of meters, so that means we only get maybe 8 months worth of work to
That's
get meters
for
in.
2026, we will have the newer readings. For this budget, we will have to get the increased rates, and that's in your agenda to vote on the rate increases.
And that's
And
sort
that
of
will
my question
generate-
is,
yeah.
so this 1.1 million is coming solely from the rate increase?
Solely from the rate
And
increase.
not from the anticipation of the new meters?
Not, yes, that's absolutely
That's what I
right.
mean. Thank you.
Don't go.
Eileen Hessian, just a quick question. The people who raised their houses had to get new water meters, and they paid $500 for them. Will they have to get new water meters now, again? Yes. Okay, that's all, yes.
They will get new meters, but not at their expense. You know, we're paying for it as part of the project.
So, wait, yeah, let's. Yeah, well,
Oh, Ronnie? Well, so we haven't moved off this agenda item.
because otherwise we're going to have more discussion. So you want to just close this hearing and go to open up the other hearing?
idea, doing it this way.
Yeah. Close this hearing and open up.
This is not a good idea.
Ron Pagani, John, I brought this up last year, you guys weren't here, about these meters. There's like $80,000 worth of brass. I had spoken to Joey and the council about it. Who gets the brass? Who gets that? Because that scrap is up there now, like $4 or $5, between 4 and 5. Do we get the brass, or does the money come off the top? That's not a bad question, right?
It's a great question. Demongo?
Joey,
Yeah, that's
Joey,
what I want to
Demongo-
know from Joey, and see what happens.
I think what happens is, like, this price that we have, and you'll see when you come up to the council for the award, the low bidder was Thomas Novelli Contracting at $4.7 million. The next 3 bidders were $8 million plus. $8 million plus. So based on my discussions with Thomas Novelli Contracting, they basically took that, one of the things they took into account in giving us such a great price, because I was very apprehensive, honestly, when I saw the price. Their price is $4.78 million. All the other 3 bidders are over $8 million, and yeah, very high. So again, that's one factor in them giving us this low price, and we did
Was
vet.
the scrap in there, though? They put that in there as well?
Yeah, in other words, that's part of them being able to give us this. It's really low compared
No,
to
I
the
get
other.
it. It's
And
a
I spoke to the
question.
other contractors that were higher. They think that they're crazy to be able to bid the price the way they did, but they are a reputable contractor. They've done many jobs for the city. They've
That's all I
done
want.
many jobs for other municipalities, so I have no problem recommending them. And it's a $3-4 million savings for the city. So if they want the brass, they could take the brass.
Thank you, Joe. So we are closing this hearing and moving to the third hearing, which is right on topic of what we're talking about right now.
Okay, so our third public hearing, well, our next public hearing will be for the ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution.
I think we just covered most of this. This is basically the raising of the rates from 25% on the water. I think Ina just explained why with Joe. I have a lot more to say, but I think the best thing to do is just move on to the questions. But I think we covered the entire public hearing content already. But we
So,
can-
Mike, you have a question?
Brendan, might I suggest, since we talked about it all together, combining the water and sewer public hearing?
right. Okay, yeah.
That way we don't have to do separate.
Procedurally, though, that one's an ordinance, one's a local law, so I got to call them separate.
All right, thank you, Mike. Come on up.
Yeah. No, that's what I was going to recommend is I could save my questions for agenda item 3 as it pertains, because the water sewer, the rate structure is consistent. You can't do one without the other. One affects the other.
Right.
So rather than hold up the hearing that people had the questions, then I could ask and recommend my questions and recommendations. I don't want to get into the overall discussion of the walks and the meters and everything like that. All I could say is I've been through cellular meter reading installations in villages before, and I understand there's a water loss. It's historic. The older the meters, the bigger the loss. But I don't want to get into that now.
So we are combining the two public hearings because,
We can't combine it because
You can't.
well, they answer the same question.
I know, but
We got to open the hearing,
Okay,
close the hearing.
all right.
Open- I know, that's
Okay,
why.
all right.
So I will, if you tell me what you want me to do, I will sit down and wait until the
I would
agenda.
never tell you to sit down and wait, but I guess I have to.
Yeah.
Mike, you want to
Yes.
talk about water, though, right? Water, not sewer?
water would be now.
This is water, this one's water.
This is water now.
water.
Sewer will be
next.
later.
Sewer's
Next.
But can I defer my questions until item number 3?
This is item number 3.
This is
This is
Okay,
the hearing
this is
for
the
item
hearing.
3.
Okay.
This is the hearing for item 3.
All right, on item number 3.
I know, it's a little confusing, sorry.
All right. I would like to make a proposed change on the structure of the rates for the sewer. Because your sewer rate is based upon 90%. It's connected to the water, right?
What? Go ahead.
Okay, all right. That's one. I will give this to you later, but I'd like to make a change on that, okay?
Wait, I think he's telling you there is no later. If you're going to do it, now's the time.
Okay.
No, he's
No, the next hearing will be for sewer. This is water.
Oh, for sewer, yes.
For sewer is the next hearing, this is
But
water.
if it's water, it's now.
This is water.
Water's
This is water.
now, okay.
Water is now.
Yeah, I'd like to offer an idea that you establish a new rate from, you have a rate structure of 600,000 to 1 and above. It says 600,000 and 1 gallon and above, which the old rate was 583. You're proposing the new rate of 729. In addition to that rate, I will give you a spreadsheet, Dan, that shows. You want it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so just give that to Dan. If it can be done on the computer system, and I don't know that if it's possible, to have a rate structure of 1 million gallons or more of at least $7.40 or $7.50 per. It probably only affects 16 to 20 entities, buildings in the city. But if you're looking for more revenue for the high-end users to promote, we call it conservation, that may be something to consider.
That's a good idea.
I do have I ran those numbers in April of 2020 when I was on the council to have an idea of how to better fund the operations of the water/sewer. And to your question, Councilman Lester, about the interfund transfer, if you're borrowing millions of dollars for water projects and/or sewer projects, you really have to deal with bond counsel, correct? And there's useful lives and everything like this. It was an excellent question about the capital and the lighting and the fixtures, because the depreciation long-term, I don't want to get into that complicated question. Anyway,
Can I keep this, Mike?
yes, that's for you. And President Finn, if you want a copy of it, I brought one to you. If everybody else wants a copy without their eyes glazing over, I have 7, but if you want it, I'll be happy to give it to all of you.
I like the idea, Mike. Maybe one
Thank you,
over,
Mike.
1 over 2 million as well.
You know, these are just suggestions. Everybody's looking to save money. But one thing is certain, and I know my time limit is up. When this app and this water meter and this electronic cellular meters are installed, and we'd be welcome to do it in the walks as a project, because then we could be the test market.
Yeah.
There's an app, and you could monitor the consumption. So if you leave on a vacation and you get a notice that you have a water break or your house is leaking, you can at least you see your daily consumption. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a question. May I ask you a question? So when you developed that proposal, did you use the actual usage over? Okay.
What I have done is
I could see.
April
Thank you.
20
Yeah.
actuals to, I used the current rate.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this hearing? Yes, in the back. Hi.
Hello, Marissa Ferrara, Coolidge Avenue. I had a question, but I believe his name is Joey. Maybe he could answer it. I wanted to know why the large increase in circumference of pipe size from 4 to 16. Does he have the answer for that?
Joe, I think you said 4 to 6,
Yeah,
right?
it's 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
4 to
4 to
6.
6.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
6.
Great. And that was it, because I just thought that was a huge
Okay.
jump. Okay.
Thank you. All right. We can close that hearing and move to the hearing
Okay.
on sewer
So
rents.
next public hearing is for a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding sewer rents.
So I think we've already spoken about what this is. This would reduce it from 1.3 times the water bill to 0.9 times the water bill. So it would be a reduction of the sewer rate, but overall it should be a minor impact to the residents at that point, overall between water and sewer.
Okay. Questions, guys?
No, that basically,
You do have a question.
that's basically because we had a surplus, a fund balance. So, that way we use up the fund balance. It's not really related to the water. It's just we have a fund balance and should use it.
Well, two things. The sewer revenues, well, even with the decrease in from 130 to 90%, there will be not like a 40% decrease, but it will be mitigated by the fact that it's tied to the water runs, and water runs go up by
But one has nothing to do theoretically with the other. I mean, in the past, what we used to do is we used to say, well, you're using the water, it's got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we had them connected. But this particular thing is, yes, you're saying, hey, it's going to be a benefit, but it's not related. It's related more to the fund balance.
It's
Correct me if I'm
related to
wrong.
both. It's related to the fund balance, the fact that we are not increasing, that we were able to decrease it to the 90%, but the sewer rates, the way that they're calculated, they're always tied to the water because that's how we measure the sewer usage based on the water usage.
So if I could just add, if we don't reduce the sewer rate, then the sewer bill will also go up 25% because your water bill is going up 25%. So your sewer rate will equally go up 25% if you do not reduce it. So you have to reduce it now. We can reduce it further because of the fund balance. But no matter what, we have to reduce the rate, or else what would cost us X is going to now, we're going to be bringing in X times 1.25 instead of just X. So we have to reduce it regardless.
A question for the public. Okay, we're going to close that hearing.
Okay. Circling back
To number 2.
to number 2, in order to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding emission charges for the Ocean Beach Park.
So Although this item states emission charges for Ocean Beach Park, that's where it falls underneath the ordinances. This item is actually sets the hours of operation for Ocean Beach Park. This changes it from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., which was there, I think, last year. I think it was 10 a.m., but it wasn't changed in the ordinance. But we're trying to make it more general, so if we need to change in the future, we basically have it as posted on the city's website and only when lifeguards are on duty. I do have both Phil and Joe here, if there are any questions from the council or the public.
Just a quick one. What kind of, since we're building in flexibility with the hours, what kind of signage will there be, clear signage, so the public, when they're going onto the beach, knows I either pay now or I don't pay now? So it's less about signage than when we have people out there to collect money. I think right now what we're talking about is opening 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. as it was in the past during weekdays, but on weekends 8 a.m. Opening at 8 a.m. and bringing it out to 5 p.m.
But I agree with your signage question. I think we're just talking about hours right now, but I agree with you.
Well, yeah, but one of the reasons I bring it up is last year we pulled the ticket takers, if for lack of a better term, at the beach entrances at 4 o'clock on Monday to Thursday, because very few people were buying tickets that late in the day on a weekday. So we saved about $60,000 in salaries, taking the kids out of the booth 2 hours early Monday to Thursday. It sounds like we're not going to do that this year?
No, Joe, do you want to, we covered this earlier, you want to answer that? We are going to be doing so.
Yeah, the total hours for, the best way to look at it in terms of signage, also in terms of staffing, I would say the easiest way to explain it is lifeguards on duty and then beach pass required, and there'll be 2 sets of hours. So from Monday to Friday, lifeguards on duty from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., beach pass is required from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Weekends, lifeguards on duty 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., beach pass is required 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The same exact savings that we achieved 2 summers ago and last summer will again be apparent this summer as well.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. In case people don't know why we did that last year, if anybody that's up on the boardwalk at used to be up on the boardwalk at 6 o'clock, knew there was crowds of people waiting to get on the beach for free, but they were going into the water as the lifeguards were going off duty. So it was a safety issue. So the thought process was, since very few people pay that late in the day anyway, let's give them 2 hours of lifeguard coverage, so hopefully they will go in the water while the lifeguards are still there.
Hope you're right.
Then get out and stay out when they see the lifeguards going off duty.
So, Joe, if we have the hours set, why don't we put it in the resolution so people know?
Well, I guess the discussion is, are those the set hours? Again, it's not going to result in any type of increase. The lifeguard patrol has assured me that they have enough people to stagger the hours where it's not going to lead to an increase in their salary budget line. It's certainly not going to do it at the beach park as well.
And the thought process also on that was that so that we don't have to keep changing the code every year. So last year it was changed to 10 o'clock. This year it's changed to 8. We didn't want to have to bring it here all the time. We could make it where we
and it got changed late in the process last year, and then there was ambiguity, even as far as printed on the back of beach passes and signage was already made. This leaves it general enough where we can make the changes that we seem to be the most fit and take it from there with plenty of time to do it.
Any other questions? Question from the public. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Let's move on. On to the regular agenda. So item 1 on the agenda is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding Appendix A zoning. And just for clarity, we did have a hearing on this item during the last meeting.
So sorry about that. So this item is a holdover from the last meeting we had the public hearing. We had to wait, we could not vote on it because we had to wait for Nassau County Planning Board review prior to voting. Nassau County had no objection to it as presented. If you recall, item is for zoning districts D, D, and E in the West End. It allows for decks to be built in front of the house, 1 foot from the property line, as long as the columns are 3 foot back from the property line. It also changes some of the language throughout the document for consistency purposes.
Any questions from the council?
Yeah, we beat.
Yeah, we discussed this, right? Any questions from the public? Mike?
It's a simple question. Is it step back or setback?
It's the setback.
All right. Then I would propose to change the definition step back. It should read setback. It's also in section SEC.9-105.14, parentheses D, residence business A district. And it's also, I think, item number 3. Excuse me, no. It's at least changing the word step back as one word to setback.
You know what, Mike? Let me just double check with Scott because I've always called it a setback as well. I've never heard of step back.
That's why I'm asking.
Scott's
but let me
here.
just make sure Scott's here that he confirms for me because he's the building commissioner.
That is in the definition section. That was actually a new change after the Haberman settlement. So a step back is something totally separate from a setback. So that's only in our RBA zone for buildings at a certain height. So they're two different things. So
Glad I
all
ca-
we did in this was just to clarify where the property line is from the street line, just to clear it up after some questions. But the main purpose of this is the 1 foot setback for the deck and the column be set back 3 feet.
Thank you, Scott. Glad I called you up.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the public? Okay, we'll close this one.
Okay, item 2 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding admission charges for the Ocean Beach Park. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 3 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 4 is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding sewer rents. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 5 is a resolution confirming the appointment of a corporation counsel.
Okay, this item is to confirm Frank DeCranis as our new corporation counsel. Frank is the longtime Long Beach resident and prior city judge. He will be an excellent addition to the team. That being said, I would like to thank Dennis Cohen for his hard work and thoughtful counsel over the last 5 months. He has been the consummate professional, and I would like to thank him personally for his counsel. Thank you.
I would like to also additionally thank Dennis for his service to the people of the City of Long Beach. You've been here just a little bit over a year. You've endured a lot. You worked hard. We appreciate it. I think you're a man of integrity, and I personally appreciate your help. Thank you.
Dennis, you've done a really great job, and you have a really good pedigree. I don't understand the change. I don't understand bringing somebody before the council to be corporate counsel who we've never interviewed. We never even were asked about. It was just brought to us in a resolution. I know that I asked this question quite a few times. I asked, why is Dennis leaving? Normally I don't like discussing personnel, but I've asked the question.
So I'm going to make a motion that we move into executive session if we're going to discuss personal matters.
No problem.
Okay.
It's a shame we could.
Hold on.
Yeah.
It can't be for the hiring.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah.
All right, do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. For the folks that are watching online, this stream will end, and we will have a new stream that will start that'll be labeled Part 2 that will come up in the next 5-10 minutes.